Hello and welcome to World Talks on TP World with me, Ashim Kumar. A sharp dispute between Ukraine and Hungary is escalating from oil flows through the Juba pipeline to the detention of Ukrainian bank staff carrying cash and gold. The clash is now spilling into EU politics, raising questions about Brussels' response and Ukraine's political future. Joining us to break this unprecedented situation down is Ivan Horodyskyy. He is a senior fellow at the Atlantic Council. Mr. Horodyskyy, thank you very much for taking the time to join us. Welcome.
Welcome. Thank you for this invitation.
It's a pleasure. So how would you characterize the relationship as it stands at the moment between Hungary and Ukraine?
Relationships between Hungary and Ukraine are stably negative for at least since the beginning of the war, and frankly speaking, much more before even the war. Its main reason for many years there was a personal ambitions of Premier Orban and his perception of the Ukrainian policy in Transcarpathian region, in which some Hungarian minority lives, and he tried to become a main lobbyist for the rights which were in fact were not violated. Still, after the war, of course, and right now, current besides Premier Orban, there is also a factor of President Zelenskyy and their personal bilateral relationships, which are becoming harder and harder. And these last statements of President Zelenskyy, made in Davos, made lately in Kyiv, seem to prove that in person they are not very good with each other, independently of interstatal relations, and this is very badly influences current stage of Ukraine.
Okay, so what does Hungary want? You say that Orban is trying to position himself as the spokesman, the lobbyist for the Hungarian minority in the Transcarpathian region, but what's his political goal?
His political goal is far beyond Ukraine. You need to understand that Ukraine and Ukrainian politics for Hungary, for Budapest, and for Orban personally is only the instrument to show their power, their influence, and that they can influence some processes beyond the region and on the European and global level even. In two words, for Orban, in case of Ukraine, is never enough. He demands a language rights, full language rights for Hungarian minorities. Okay, but later he demands free transit of oil and gas from Russia through Ukraine to Hungary. Okay, but later he blocks a reparation loan to Ukraine. He blocks European integration of Ukraine, etc., etc., etc. So it's never enough. We cannot say that Kyiv or Zelenskyy may fulfill some requirements of Orban because later he will possess new one. And this is game with zero sum, which really can change only if there is change of power in Budapest.
Right. How likely do you think that is to happen, a change of power in Budapest?
You never know. So I think that President Zelenskyy, why he's making these statements, he thought that this is inevitable, and he thought that by this statement he helps even to Tisha and to Peter Magyar to win this election. But as a reaction in Brussels and in Budapest, and personally from Peter Magyar, has shown that this has opposite effect. That by these statements he supports somehow Orban and supports his position. He proves that Orban currently is right, because you see what these Ukrainians in person of Zelenskyy are telling and so on. So please support me to avoid some future complications because I am right. So that's why these last statements, they are not playing well for Ukraine.
The statements you're referring to are the statement by President Zelenskyy said that he threatening to send soldiers to Orban's home. Is that the statement you're referring to?
Yeah, there was also a statement in Davos when Zelensky says that Orban should stop to think about his belly and so on. So there was a number of statements. Yes, we can say that there is a Zelensky background of his actor because he was actor of Comedia and so on. And he really thinks that he has a good sense of humor and clever. But and in the internal level, we often in Ukraine hearing some jokes, some statements which pretend to be funny. But you need to understand that even in Ukraine, not always the perception of these statements are okay in line, and people were often are perceiving them with eyes wide open. Why he's saying that? Because he's president, and we need to see some more diplomatic ways of communication or behaving, etc. Right. There was a Oval Office moment, and I think Zelensky tries to get one more of it.
Understood. Now, certainly the people of Ukraine aren't finding funny the fact that Orban is blocking every EU resolution to support Ukraine, for example, the 90 billion euro loan. Is it time, in your opinion, for decisions in the European Union to be made by majority rather than a unanimous vote?
Definitely, and it's not a question of Ukraine, it's a question of the future of the European Union in general. You see that there will always be a kind of Orban, a big risk at least. So a good years of beginning of the century when democracy, liberal democracy was widespread in the European Union and all were on the same wave, all leaders, they were far away. Currently, we need to understand that democracy should protect itself from inside, and that's why European Union should rethink the way of decision making in Brussels, independently of Ukraine, independently of Orban. But today is Ukraine, but later some country or two countries, they will block some initiatives which are vital for the European Union in general. And so what then? So you should allow to 2-3 people with slightly other views to block, which are playing on the wrong side. Probably, we don't know, but still there are rumors that Orban is playing a line with Putin to stop the evolution reforms of the European Union. I doubt.
Okay, now looking at it from Brussels' perspective, how are these statements by President Zelensky playing out in their collective consciousness? For example, how does it influence Brussels' invitation to Ukraine to join the EU?
I don't think that it's directly influencing. Yes, there is some fatigue from all the situation, and there was a reaction at the level of spokespersons that European Commission is negatively perceiving such statements. But European Union as an institution, organization, and most of European capitals, they have big patience and understanding to Ukraine because we are in crisis. Zelensky, in any way, he's in crisis, and of course there are different we cannot be requested to behave or to act, to take decisions which should be taken in the normal way, because some points we need to rethink. But of course there are some limits, and I think that Zelensky should understand that there will be signals from the European Commission that there are limits, and so please do not make such statements. But it won't influence towards this not funny joke that it will stop European integration. European integration is blocked currently in Budapest, probably in Bratislava, and maybe in some other capitals, but not by Zelensky and his jokes.
Understood. Now the temperature is heating up between these countries. It's not just rhetoric anymore. Hungary arrested or detained 7 employees of the Ukrainian National State Savings Bank, along with some money and gold, some cash and gold. This is really not the kind of behaviour that one would expect from European countries in a dispute between them. Ukraine is being accused of stopping the flow of oil and gas through the Juba pipeline. Does Brussels have a role to play in cooling things down here?
I think the main tactics of Brussels is waiting. They are waiting for April 12th, as far as I remember, the elections in Hungary, and to see what there is going on. So that's why they're not interfering, they're not playing at any side to avoid some provocations or some convictions that they are supporting other side and so on. So I don't think that it will interfere. It will slightly, press, for example, on Ukrainian government to ensure that Druzhba pipeline is restored and transit is restored and so on. But a direct intervention on any side, I doubt that it will take place in this situation.
Is this an opportunity for Viktor Orbán to diversify his sources of oil?
I think this opportunity exists for Hungary since February or March 2022. But it's a decision of Orban, and it's on the question of political decision to get oil only from Russia. See, Ukraine is not getting either gas or oil directly from Russia since February 2022. And we are living, we are working, so we have industries here, we have cars which are driving, so on, so on, so on. So no major crisis. Hungary has much less consuming of oil and gas, and definitely there is big possibility for them to diverse it. But Orban is seeking the support of Putin, the support of Kremlin, geopolitically. Because he always needs to have some point outside the European Union in his fight with Brussels, in his confrontation with Brussels. So he needs to get support from somewhere. At this stage, this non-diversification is ensuring his support by Putin, and in his vision, his position are stronger.
Now, in the last minute or so that we have left, Mr. Horodyskyy, what is the attitude on the streets in Ukraine with regard to this dispute with Hungary?
It was not widely commented and widely perceived. Yes, everyone in Ukraine, I think, who heard, and most of Ukrainians have heard about Orban, they understand that this guy is bad from our position. But if Zelenskyy thought that his statement will receive some major applauses or some Oval Moment office when all Ukrainians were gathering around the flag, no, there was no such moment. So it was even it was perceived, once again, some joke which was not needed. So everyone understands that Orban is not good, but Ukrainians are also expecting from president some adult and more serious position.
Understood. Ivan Horodyskyy, thank you so much for sharing your analysis with our audience. Have a good day.
Have a good day. Thank you.
Thank you. That brings us to the end of this episode of World Talks. Don't go away, lots more coming up. Goodbye.